can either believe it or they cannot believe it. I don't give two but I am telling you right now, that back there is not real.
Me, it look like a leprechaun to me. All I gotta do is look up in the tree. Who else sees the leprechaun? Say yeah!
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh.
Before the Tic Tac type UFO was flying at such speed there that it barely was able to stay on their radar. They didn't get a chance to shoot it down yet.
It's all shifty lawyer talk. I mean, this is like lawyers have scripted this shit. It's just so shifty how the words they use, the language and all this sort of stuff. It's so calculated, and it's war propaganda.
Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to the Theorists for another week.
Howdy, everybody. It's Andy Nolch here, and it's Tuesday, so it's news day. You ready? You excited, Tim?
I am, though a person in the live chat goes by the name Milana Cream says, I don't know why I do this to myself. Are you talking about watching this show? Oh, well, we're glad that you are, because, well, it can be a bit triggering, confronting for some, because they're hearing takes on the news.
Tough
that they would,
information about the news.
yeah, exactly. And
we're shattering her false ideas, and she's probably got the last name Cream because that's why she's watching the show, because she wants to get creamy.
Although we don't know if it's a he or a she or a Z or a whatever their pronoun is. Senator Slayer says, I hope Tim isn't drunk again. Well, I can be.
I have to be honest, Tim. See, now you pulled the drink up. I was going to say, I bet you have been drinking, because just talking to you just before the show, you seem to be quite loose.
Well,
so we'll see how tonight's show goes. Hopefully you're not too drunk.
Well, isn't tonight a cause to celebrate, because Alan Joyce is gone from Qantas. He has checked out as CEO. He the jet heat became too much for him, so he's flown away.
Yeah, that's the theme of tonight's show. I'm happy because, well, I mean, they're just going to replace him with some idiot, and of course they're replacing him with a woman because, you know, diversity.
Yes,
and
Vanessa
stuff.
Hudson, the first female Qantas CEO, and by the end of the week also we'll have our first Reserve Bank of Australia female governor, Michelle Bullock, who, of course, she's going to be factoring in climate change into the the Reserve Bank policy.
Yes, I heard that, and I thought that was interesting. I thought, well, what are they going to do with that? Are they just going to assume that, like, oh, we better not put the interest rates up by that much because climate change is going to affect inflation in 2 years? Like, they can't even predict the weather correctly coming in the next 6 hours with the weather, let alone them trying to factor it in for other stuff. I mean, how are they going to do that, Tim? What do you think?
Well, obviously, if our energy minister, blackout Chris Bowen, if he continues to crush affordable energy in Australia, that pushes up the cost of energy, inflation, and so interest rates would continue to rise. Though on his way out, Philip Lowe, he's cucked out and hasn't raised interest rates for the last 3 months. Why doesn't he go like the Reserve Bank of Turkey and just raise interest rates to 15%? I mean, it caused an instant recession, but it would create a economic reset, as us Austrian economists, supporters of the Austrian School of Economics, advocate. That's a good type of great reset, because you reset the economy, and so it can grow organically, that investment can take place where it's supposed to go.
Since this show is about conspiracies, I think there's a conspiracy behind the interest rates. I actually think that their goal isn't inflation. Like they're not worried about inflation. I think they're actually worried about employment. And when unemployment gets too low, that causes problems for the economy. So they put interest rates up. When there's too much unemployment, then they put interest rates down to speed up the economy and get more jobs created. So I like the way the media always talks about interest rates is that they're always looking at what the inflation rate is, then they're adjusting the interest rate. I actually think the truth is that they're looking at the unemployment rate and they're adjusting the interest rate. Because if they
Yeah, that's what
openly said,
Michelle Bullock has said. I don't see how this is part of why they believe that inflation can get too high because wages haven't been growing in Australia, real wages.
well, I think part of the problem is that they can't openly come out and say, look, we actually need more people to lose their jobs. It's good for the economy. Like if they said that, it would cause too much outrage. So they say stuff like the inflation rate's too high, so we have to raise interest rates. It's a way of protecting their reputation. But they literally sit there and by printing of money, they can decide if there's going to be lots of people having jobs or lots of people not having jobs. And so, yeah, I think it's a controversial role because you'll just piss everyone off. But we should get back to this talking about the Qantas stuff, eh?
Yes, because Alan Joyce he survived so many controversies over the years. So he became the Qantas CEO back in it was 2008. So he's been there for almost 15 years, and there was during the industrial dispute of 2011, he grounded the Qantas fleet. And then obviously Qantas, it bounced back since then. But then, of course, during COVID, well, the government mandated that Australians weren't allowed to leave to Australia unless you got a permission from the government, and you couldn't come back unless there was a spot in hotel quarantine for you that you had to pay. But Qantas got the JobKeeper bailout money.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Qantas because when I wanted to travel during the pandemic, Qantas was like China Airways and stuff. Like they had lots of strict rules. You had to have a proper vaccine certificate.
Oh yeah,
They
Alan Joyce was at first it was the vaccine mandate for passengers and employees. What's on in the background? I can hear an echo.
Yeah, I can hear it as well.
Where's it happening?
Well, it can't be happening on my phone. It must be happening on your end. But but what happened is that I needed to travel during the pandemic, and so what I had to do was I had to fly with American Airlines, and I think they were called American Airlines, but they were much freer when it came to COVID. It was much nicer, but Qantas were very strict. So I have a hard feelings for Qantas. And Qantas are so propped up by the government and so protected um, that it just pisses me off. It's just when I see Qantas, I just see the lefty Aussie government, and Qantas supported the whole gay marriage thing, and Qantas is supporting the voice, and I believe that Albanese cut a deal with Qantas, and Albanese said, "I'll help ban these flights from a company that's in competition with Qantas, international flights to Australia, if you support the voice." And Alan Joyce said, "Yeah, cool, we'll do that." And so now Qantas is supporting the voice, and we have to pay more. So we've got less flights to choose from when going overseas, and we have to pay more. Um, so yeah, I really hate Qantas, and I mean it's not going to change with Alan Joyce changing. I mean he's just a front guy, he's just a public speaking guy. But yeah, and also Qantas have been running this scam, which Tim probably knows about. He can go into talking about now. Um, Tim, you know about this scam that Qantas have been doing where they were selling tickets to flights that have already been cancelled.
Well, they were called ghost flights or zombie flights, whichever phrase you want to call them. They were selling tickets to flights that were already cancelled, if that was possible. And I fixed the echo. I found out it was coming from my phone. The live stream on YouTube just played suddenly automatically, and I've adjusted the volume. Andy needs to be closer to his microphone like I am all of the time. You can see
Yeah, I've moved it closer. Or can you turn down the volume of your mic?
I can.
I'm as close as I can go to my mic.
There was
I'm at Everest base camp at the moment. It's cold
Yeah.
in these snow cabins.
Yes, you've got your puffer jacket.
Yeah, I got this. Yeah, it's cool. I found it in my sister's room.
I am indoors, Brucey. I mean, I'm in my studio. Yeah, Tim, stop screaming. Not everyone is drunk.
So do you have a news report to play about Qantas, Tim?
Well, I have one of the most notable things to happen to Alan Joyce during his time in Qantas. It's when he was pied at a corporate breakfast back in 2017.
Since I've been here to announce the heck.
Emerging from backstage, a man in a suit who grabbed Mr. Joyce and smashed a pie into his face.
I don't know what that was about. Excuse me. I might take a break for a second, guys, and just clean up a little bit, and I'll come back.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't, Tim. But sorry about the problems with the microphone. Tim, it's annoying. I think it's because you're drunk. Before the show, we try and start it, and you're like, Andy, you sound fine. I can't hear any problems. And we start the show, and then it sounds like I'm too quiet.
Well, you never know how the sound is until you're actually on air and you get audience feedback. Though I still reckon we're professionals compared to the Australia First dudes last night. I mean, obviously their content is good, but Gabriel Mare on Australia First, he couldn't plug in his microphone into the settings, and so we just got his camera audio. And then Michael Nelson over on White Australia First, he didn't charge his phone, so it died midstream, but the stream kept going. It was just him frozen for hours.
Wow. Well, how about you turn down your mic even more a little bit, Tim? Then you'll be in line with me.
All right. Please give us feedback on in the chat. So that pyre of Alan Joyce, that was Tony Overhue. So he was an he was against same-sex marriage, and so was against Alan Joyce using Qantas to support same-sex marriage in 2017. Alan Joyce gave $1 million of his own money towards the yes for same-sex marriage. So Alan Joyce, of course, did press charges against him, and so he was fined $3,600, and he was also banned by his own church and banned from Qantas for life.
Wow. And Qantas kicked out a veteran, didn't they?
Yes,
the veteran into is it economy class or something? And
it was they have a Qantas in there, apparently in their terms and conditions. It's called involuntary downgrade. So one of their young airline employees, they kicked him out. This 78-year-old Vietnam veteran. So they put him out of business class, so a young airline employee could fly in business, which is like, that's really shit.
Yeah, you have to show respect to the troops.
The veterans, you mean? The Anzacs?
Yeah, yeah. What do you want to go into next? Do you want to talk about the Unshackled article that I did this week?
Yes. So there was that apartment fire in Johannesburg in South Africa. Well, I'll let you explain it. It's your article.
Yeah, so what happens in South Africa is because communists took over, they corrupted the whole system and they let blacks take over and stuff the whole country up. So what happens is that black gangs go around stealing buildings, like whole apartment buildings, and they just fill them up with people. And the police can't do much about it. Every now and then they go in and they raid in a big apartment building in a big operation and they kick everyone out. That's how crazy things are in South Africa. But this building was full of all these people who had stolen the building, and it caught on fire for whatever reason, probably because the tenants are questionable. And then about 70 people died. Yeah, it was featured in the mainstream media, but they didn't mention much about how the building was stolen. They had a bit
No,
more of a
because they basically couldn't pin it on white people. Remember the Grenfell apartment a tower fire in the UK number of years back? That was obviously there was a I'm not sure if they call it a royal commission in the UK, but of course the Tory government was blamed because it's poor migrants who live in there. But South Africa now, it's a country run by black communists. That's what the African National Congress is. And affirmative action has meant that all the whites have been fired from all of the public servants jobs, well, most of them. And so blacks are the majority in the public service. So it's hard to blame Whitey for this tragedy. So they just report it because obviously it is a horrendous tragedy. But they're not going to criticize the narrative of the rainbow South Africa.
Yeah, this is just this whole left agenda. Like here in Australia, they keep on pumping up the Aboriginals and stuff, and they'll get it to a point where white people are just destroyed and kicked out of the country, and then the country will just be totally stuffed up. And they probably can't do news reports criticizing the white people in power or saying there's white privilege and all this sort of stuff. But by that stage, the whole country's wrecked. So I mean, it's really sad to see what's going on in South Africa, because we see the same people in control in Western countries, and we're heading towards that path, and it's traumatic, really. It's nightmarish watching our country and seeing what's going on when you see all these leftists in the ABC doing what they're doing because they want to stop police from arresting criminals. And look, I'm actually a bit of an anarchist, but these leftists that you see in America and Australia, they don't say, hey, I don't believe in any government at all. I believe in total freedom and like anarchy. They don't say that. They just go, these black people shouldn't be getting arrested by the police and the police are racist. So they're not going down the whole anarchy path. They're going down some crazy middle road where there is police and it is being run like a scam, because the police are a lot of the time a scam. They don't really do their job. But then at the same time, it's just retarded, and it's basically Alice Springs. South Africa and Alice Springs is what they're turning the West into. And we'll just if we just keep on allowing the left to scare our police and stop the police from working, then we will have buildings stolen in our countries.
I remember in Cape Town, nearly ran out of water. The city was so poorly managed, and you didn't even mention in your article the white farm murders, which are still going on, and they are absolutely brutal and sadistic. They are tortured, mutilated as they're dying. These white South African farmers.
Yeah, someone mentioned in the comment section how there's a Louis Theroux documentary about these South African crime gangs and stuff. I've seen it, and it's a really good documentary. I recommend people to check it out, because you see actually the black people go in and the people who are stealing the buildings and the police trying to get the buildings back, but you see black people just like say, yeah, I get out my knife and I threaten people and I steal shit from them. And you get an idea of what it's really like when you have a lot of Africans in your country. And I know this might sound totally racist, but who cares? I'm just willing to tell the truth. That's how it is. And I think leftists and people who watch ABC need to watch the Louis Theroux documentary and go, look, these Africans, they're not all bad, but a lot of them are scary like this dude, and they hold up a knife and they say, I don't fucking give a shit. I'm going to stab people. I want to steal your shit. And it's like, if you're going to be all lefty and just be so nice to them and let them flood your country, then you will turn into like the Louis Theroux documentary. So if you want that, then you're crazy. But because the problem is that we've got these leftists in the inner city of Melbourne, and they don't see these Africans, these scary dudes that do these stabbings and shit. So they really need to watch the Louis Theroux documentary, and they'll realize, oh, now I'm starting to get the whole nationalist point of view.
Well, with the decolonization of Africa, or the white Western white nations leaving Africa, almost all of the African nations, when they began to govern themselves, descended into civil war. I mean, you hear in the news every week, there's a coup in another African country. What is it? It was Sudan, then it was Niger, and then there's been one in Gabon as well. Now, obviously, they during the early days, after the white Western powers left, they didn't have the white scapegoats anymore. But do you remember the dictator of Uganda, Idi Amin, in the 70s? He blamed the country's, well, basically the impoverishment of the country on the Indian business people, and he expelled them from Uganda. So once they couldn't scapegoat the whites anymore, they scapegoated the Indians. Because do you know that Indians, obviously they were part of the British Empire, but they migrated to Uganda and also Fiji as well. They became colonizers uh, as part of a colony.
Yeah. L. Ron Hubbard visited the South Africa and Rhodesia area in the early 60s. And he was like, he said, firstly, the media keeps on saying that South Africa is really, really bad and stuff. And he's like, this is fake news. He's like, I've been around South Africa. This is in like 1963 or something like that. He's like, I've been around South Africa. It's not that bad. They're cherry picking things. He's basically saying it's fake news. He was like Trump. This is what he was saying back then when he was talking to people in the early 60s. And then he said, look, if you like, why do you want to give the black people a vote? Most black people don't even know what the vote is, and they literally don't. They're not educated. It's not part of their system. They don't understand our democratic system. And he's like, they don't even know what a vote is. This is ridiculous. And he was saying that if you hand back the country to the blacks, you're just going to get gang warfare, because that's what it was like when the blacks used to rule that area. It was just one tribe fighting the other tribe, and they kill each other. The same as Australia. It was just all these Aboriginal tribes, and they would fight each other and they'll kill each other. So if you let your government get taken over by these people, they're just going to cause infighting, and it'll just be gang warfare. And at the end, everyone's just going to be killing everyone. And of course, the whites will be the poor victims, and they'll have to flee. And then you look 50 years into the future, and exactly what he warned us about came about, because it's so obvious. And back in 1963, there was other countries. There was one other country, I can't remember what it was called, but they'd already done that. They'd already handed the power away from the colonialists, And there was already by 1963, there was examples of this occurring. So whoever was in power back then, these leftists who were in power back then, who wanted to give back power to the blacks in Africa, they already knew that it was not a good move. So the powers that be, for whatever reason, the communist world government wanted to give back these colonies to the blacks. And it's crazy and it's sick. And it's like the same as when they created the Black Lives Matter riots in America. Like, that was created by the communists. Why would you want to create Black Lives Matter riots? Why would you want them to burn down cities? It's weird. There's some people at the top that are really sick and really evil. It's just super evil that anyone want to do the Black Lives Matter riots or hand back the land back to the blacks. It's disgusting.
Well, you mentioned in your article they're trying to create in the US some more Black Lives Matter riots because there was a police officer. I'll actually click on the story itself. So over in the United States, in Ohio, a police officer, he was about to be run over by this black pregnant woman who store employees had accused her of stealing alcohol. She refused to cooperate and so got in her car and was going to run him over. And so, of course, he shot and she died. They tried to resuscitate her, but of course, you know, she was an innocent, pregnant black woman who didn't do nothing, and so there's been protests there. The body cam has been released. I'm not sure if you want to play it.
Yeah, let's check out the body cam.
1828. Do not leave. Get out of the car. Then get out. No. Then get out. Get out of the car. 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 Shots fired. Shots fired. Stop. Car. Stop. 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 Car. Hey, stop. Hey, out of the car. Out of the car.
I don't think she's going to get out of the car. I think she's dead.
Out of the car. Out of the car.
Oh, there is someone.
Full stuff, do not leave. Get out of the car. Then get out. No, then get out. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
Oh, that's a repeat.
That's a different angle.
Oh,
Yeah.
different angle.
Yeah.
Well, as you can see, that the leftists are all upset about it, but they're protecting the criminal. That chick was shoplifting, and you know, if you don't have police arresting shoplifters, then the shops close down. And there's numerous cities in America that have been taken over by leftists, and shops have just left those cities, like shops like Walmart or something like that. Like, they're just like, we can't do business in those cities. So then you miss out on having shops and the good stuff they sell.
I know that lefty communists in Australia, they're putting up fake signs to put in supermarkets to basically incite or encourage shoplifting. Because of the under the guise of the cost of living crisis, and the supermarkets are profitable, which is a good thing that the supermarkets are profitable, because if one of the supermarket chains collapsed, then that would massively disrupt the food supply. But of course, if everybody shoplifted, the whole society would collapse. And there's also they call themselves the tire extinguishers. They're slashing tires in wealthy suburbs in Melbourne, like such as Toorak. So we have these local left, you can call them basically leftist terrorists. I mean, they are inciting terror by slashing people's tires on their cars so they can't get places. Apparently, this is to fight the climate crisis. And they are also inciting anarchy by basically encouraging shoplifting. And they should be charged by the police for incitement.
Yeah, whenever you look into what's going on in the world, like politics and conspiracies, things tend to come down to two things. Everything comes down to like depopulation. That's the reason for things. But number two is so many things come down to leftists. They're the problem. Either depopulationists and leftists, and a lot of the time they are the same thing. But the left are they're just the worst thing for anything. You put them anywhere and they wreck it. And so they want to lock up these cops for just doing their job, and it's outrageous. And they will turn Australia into Alice Springs, and people are leaving Alice Springs because there's crime gangs running around. And I don't think it's as bad as South Africa, but Alice Springs is still pretty bad. And I was there and I saw it, and it was quiet. Whereas Alice Springs was supposed to be this like Australian gem. It was supposed to really, be something and represent Australia, because a lot of foreigners visit Alice Springs. And now it's just ridiculous. It's a ghost town. So yeah.
Dawn Browning says, I'm warming to Andy. Dawn is our resident green thumb, and also a baker as well. She baked a Ban the ADL pie, which got featured in a Rolling Stone. You didn't answer, Dawn, last night, I don't think. What's in that pie? Have you seen this hashtag on Twitter X, ban the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League?
Yeah, so it seems that the Anti-Defamation League is in bed with the intelligence agencies, and they just, whoever they want to censor for political reasons, they use the ADL, and the ADL says, oh, what you said is so offensive to Jews or whatever, and then they can censor someone. So it's just, the ADL is just bullshit. And Israel, we can talk a bit about Israel, because like,
yes,
they want to ban Africans. So it's like they
build a border wall basically around the whole country. So a wall around Egypt and Jordan. Where Netanyahu, basically after there was a riot by illegal African immigrants in Tel Aviv, which is basically the Melbourne of Israel. It's SJW Central. And Benjamin Netanyahu said, right, we're going to find and deport them, and we're going to build a great wall to keep them out.
Yeah, so, and I bet you a lot of these people who are involved with the ADL who are Jewish, they want lefty shit for us, and they want censor. Like,
the ADL doesn't support open borders for Israel because they say that would put Jews at risk. But
yeah, exactly. So what about us? What about us getting put at risk for the open borders?
Or mass immigration to the United States, where the ADL is based, which illegal immigrants have murdered American citizens, because you don't know who's coming across the border, and a lot of them are criminals. And of course, remember when Donald Trump launched his campaign, his infamous line, they're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people. Remember, he was cancelled all the way back then for saying that. But if a Jewish person says that we can't allow all this mass immigration to Israel because they'd be unsavory people, that's okay.
And do you know what? The powers that be support Israel and Ukraine, the powers that be of the West. And what they do is they allow Ukraine to have hardcore right-wing stuff and Israel to have hardcore right-wing stuff. But places like Australia and New Zealand, they just flood the place with leftist bullshit. Like, they want Ukraine strong, right? Because they're using Ukraine to fight the Russian Empire. So they allow right-wingness in Ukraine. And the same
it's also a money laundering country.
Yeah, and they also keeping Israel strong because they're using Israel as a beachhead to fight the Arab Empire, right? So they know that right-wing policies keeps your nation strong. I'm certain that they know it, but they're not allowing it in Australia and Canada and New Zealand. Why? It's because they're sabotaging our civilizations. That's another point. I mentioned those 2 points. It's like a third one. It's all about they're sabotaging us. It's clear it's a sabotaging operation. They know this lefty shit fucks your country up, and it's possibly connected to the depopulation. So they want to depopulate these countries, and so that you need to sabotage them. But they don't want to depopulate Israel and Ukraine. So it's
Well,
just whoever rules us is sellouts, and they're not for us. They're not part of us. They want to kill off and depopulate us.
well, it's also so they can get the left-wing parties. They can have a permanent leftist majority. So obviously the the Hispanics and the blacks in the United States vote overwhelmingly Democrat, yet the Republicans they still chase the diversity vote, and in Australia,
and it
obviously,
does work. It
and
absolutely works. If you look at the areas, the big lefty in Victoria, they're totally areas that are full of immigrants.
and they all vote Labor, and
Yeah,
the Liberals, they always try to put in either an Indian or Asian candidate in a marginal seat, thinking, oh well, they'll just vote for them because they're one of them. But no, they even vote for the Labor white candidate over the Liberal candidate of color. And so, and Cos Samaras, who's the Labor pollster at Redbridge, well, he used to be Labor campaign director. He basically believes that demographics are destiny, and that immigrants will continue to vote for the Labor Party, and millennials will continue to vote for the Labor Party. Obviously, they've been through all the brainwashing system.
man, everything these leftists are doing is stuffing stuff up. Like I was saying with sabotaging, like they're sabotaging our vaccines, they're sabotaging our population numbers, they're sabotaging our borders, they're sabotaging our electricity, they're sabotaging things by having Black Lives Matter riots. It's just a whole sabotage operation. I mean, look at our electricity, for example. They
Yeah,
know that this green energy thing doesn't work. It's not an accident. They know it. The windmills, the wind power thingos are a scam. They use up electricity. They don't add electricity.
and use up
And
resources. We're going to have to dig up more things from the ground in Western Australia.
exactly. And then they have to replace them and stuff. But I mean, there was an article that came out this week in the paper in Herald Sun about Vic's power problems, and Victoria is the leftiest state in Australia, and we've got the most green energy bullshit.
And we've got
And
the gas
we've
ban coming in
yeah, and
next year.
yes, and we've got the gas ban, so we've got all this lefty shit. And this article was saying that we've got the most unreliable electricity, and we're going to have the most amount of problems coming into the future. Yet we're the ones with the most amount of futuristic green energy technology. It's because it doesn't work. It's all bullshit. So it's like when Daniel Andrews is sick, I mean, how much would you like to have a chat with Daniel Andrews? Just a sit down chat, not even attack him, just say, Dan, do you know what you're doing? Do you know this stuff is a bullshit scam? You're fucking us up. I would just like to see what he says. I mean, what do you think, Tim? Do you think he even knows that he's sabotaging our state?
I'm sure that they believe the climate BS, but they do know that there's going to be an energy shortfall. I mean, both the Victorian and New South Wales Labor governments are extending the lives of our existing coal-fire power stations until the mid 2030s. And this is I'll just play this now. This is the Sky News graphic of the potential Australian summer of blackouts.
This summer, it's going to be most acute, the potential of blackouts in Victoria and South Australia. The blackout risk then will shift to New South Wales by 2025, and in a longer term outlook, it's saying that Queensland will get there by 2029.
Yeah, so
Yes,
what's interesting about that is that sort of ties into our prediction that they're going to make big bushfires happen this summer. So I'm just going to say it. They're going to make a dry period, then they're going to start a bunch of fires. They're going to make it windy using their weather control technology. Heaps of stuff's going to burn. Honestly, it's going to be like possibly an Hawaii event type situation. And we're going to have power blackouts during that. So that's just my prediction. I'm just going to put that in there.
Well, we have predicted that the summer psyop is likely to be bushfires and not COVID, as Alex Jones predicted. Well, he didn't predict. He said this is what they are planning with the new variant.
But don't you think the COVID thing might still come, or do you think it's going to die away?
Well, this variant it hasn't exploded like the original Omicron strain did. There was, as you know, I'm a fan of Futurama. The new series, the episode that just dropped. They did a parody of the COVID pandemic with Explovid 23, which causes coughing and anger, and it turns out that all of the various misinformation is being put into Earth by the Omicron aliens, because they've been original characters from the beginning. The Omicron aliens that always try to invade Earth. And Professor Farnsworth, he has a test for Explovid 23, which goes right into the brain. But then when the Omicron arrive at Earth, they get the Explovid, and then Farnsworth says, "Oh no, it's mutated into an Omicron variant." They probably just came back, resurrected themselves to make that Omicron variant joke.
There's something that I want to mention, and it sort of relates to the whole Israel thing we were just talking about. And it's about this billionaire who died, and he was an Arab billionaire, and his son hooked up with Princess Diana and was going to marry her, and actually he had her
Yeah, they both
impregnated.
died in the
Yeah,
tunnel.
in the car crash, and he had her impregnated, so she was actually pregnant at the time. So they were really going to get married and all this sort of stuff. But the West were getting into a big war with the Arabs, with what was coming with the Afghan invasion and the whole Middle East invasion and stuff. And it seems that they didn't want Princess hooking up with this Arab
Mohammed
guy.
al-Fayed.
Yeah, and so that's where it connects with Israel, because Israel's part of the West, and it's all about a beachhead to take over the Arab Empire. But this is what the powers that be do. They don't want the public thinking nice of the enemy. They like to get us all hating Russia and hating the Arabs and hating the Chinese, and they set up these wars. And they do that partially by stopping famous people who are popular, like Princess Diana, from having successful marriages with people from those other areas. It's complex. But anyway, it was just interesting because there's a news report on it. I don't know if you want to play it, but it was just interesting because he knew that the intelligence agencies in Britain actually killed Princess Diana. And that's the truth about it.
There's been conspiracies for years. I don't have access to a news report, but I just want to go back to the COVID variant, because it's just broken from Megan Carl from the UK Health Security Agency. Good news that the new vaccines work against the new variant. So remember, Joe Biden said he was going to be signing funding for it. Did you hear today that Jill Biden, she's got COVID again? And so people are wondering, oh, is this part of the, look, it's in the White House, COVID again. Also, I want to ask you, Andy, I discussed it on my show last night, these stories or fake news that circulated online that there was Ebola at Burning Man. It's all the people at the festival said this is all fake news. FEMA is not there. What do you reckon?
I don't know. I can't comment.
No, but we're just have a speculation in the dark. Because it sounds like fake news to me. There's been no proof of it.
The mainstream media keep on always talking up viruses. It's like they want to keep the public thinking that viruses are a problem so that then they can justify government getting involved. It's like how in Victoria they always talk about the road toll and they make out that lots of people die on the road. So then people are okay with the fines they get for speeding when it's just revenue raising.
I also want to ask you, Andy, you know how there was the multiple Nazi rallies in Florida over the weekend? So there was the Blood Tribe Goyim Defense League one, and then there was a separate one, the Order of the Black Sun, and I can't remember off the top of my head what the other group was. There was one on the bridge, and there was one at Disneyland. Now, a lot of normie conservatives say, "Oh, they're feds. They hired out of work actors." What do you reckon?
I wouldn't be surprised if they're using these Nazis to dirty the reputation of Ron DeSantis.
But Ron DeSantis, he is like the most pro-Jewish governor in America. He's passed laws to outlaw anti-Semitic
Yeah,
pamphleting.
but Tim, don't allow facts to interfere with their propaganda agenda. You know that they just come up with shit that's like when we had the COVID protesters in Melbourne, they were just like, yeah, the media was like, yeah, there was Nazis there, and like there
They
wasn't.
were fake
So
tradies.
yeah, so they don't worry about the truth. They just go with whatever they think. Like they're just ridiculous. They discredit themselves. So when it comes to places like Ukraine, where it suits them to encourage Nazis. In Florida, it suits their agenda to encourage Nazis. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're encouraging Nazi groups to make Florida look like it's some crazy right-wing white supremacist state, and then they can justify them. It can lose possibly the vote of Ron DeSantis because they've got Trump as a problem, but their second problem is Ron DeSantis, so they've got to dirty his reputation as well. So Nazi is just a thing these days they use to fling onto people as like some dirty reputation to lose votes and stuff, even though I don't think that many people are upset with the Nazis really, but yeah, a lot of it leftists are, I guess. But I mean, if I didn't know anything about Nazis and someone accused some guy that I like Ron DeSantis of having a state that harbored Nazis, I just wouldn't care. Like I just like whatever. But that's me.
So Senator Slayer has called for question time. So we've got one from Brucey. Is Nolch aware of the cosmic death fungus theory? People attempting to treat the infection using some of the same supplements as those treating the spike proteins. Can you consume consume that treatment through a beef Wellington?
Maybe.
Have you heard of it?
I haven't heard of this theory. No, I haven't heard about it. But do you know what I've heard about, Tim? This thingo of right wingers having their bank accounts being frozen, kind of like how you get in trouble with Facebook and you have your account stopped.
Yes. So in the UK, Nigel Farage, he had a total victory against the bank that closed him down. The NatWest CEO was forced to resign. Nigel Farage, he always wins, but nationalists in Australia haven't been so lucky. Blair Cottrell got his Westpac account shut down. A number got their ANZ accounts got shut down, and now National Australia Bank, NAB, so they have declared they will investigate customers who make profane, derogatory, or discriminatory marks online, and they retain the right to suspend, cancel, or deny access to a customer accounts. And they also provide a support number for customers to report concerns about other account holders. Now, NAB claims this is an initiative aimed at combating domestic violence and elder abuse, which that basically means that a woman can make a baseless domestic violence accusation and the husband gets his bank account closed.
Yeah, I know. And these were things that were like you probably needed to go through a court case to make occur, and now it can happen. It's part of this whole social credit score thing. It's pretty concerning, but that's why they want to get rid of cash so that then everyone's controlled by the card they've got and they can just close those cards.
Yeah, and we've seen the payment processors, PayPal, Visa, and MasterCard deplatform multiple. Blair also got banned from PayPal, and so did Senator Slayer. Lady
and
of
what about
Shalom.
Patreon as well?
Yes, I think Lauren Southern was the first to get banned by Patreon. then Faith Goldie, because she, in their words, glowingly recited the 14 words. And we have another question here from Senator Slayer. Tell us the worst Tim alcohol story you've ever heard. So
I've seen this comment for a while, so I've got the story right. And this goes back.
Yes.
This is back when Trump was getting elected, right? And apparently it wasn't me, but somebody rocked up at your house, and you didn't answer the door, okay? And he heard Backstreet Boys getting pumped, right? The music Backstreet Boys were playing. I don't know which one, but this is a story, right? And he walked into the house, right? And on the TV was the whole election thing that was playing out, the election count. And you were passed out. And by the way, at this stage, Trump had already won. So obviously Tim must have been pretty happy, right? And he called out your name and stuff, and he heard you moan or whatever. And then he went to where he heard you moaning, and it was the toilet, right? And you were passed out on the ground with your pants on your ankles, right? Sleeping on the ground, passed out, and the whole toilet bowl was half on the ground because it had broken. So you'd broken the whole toilet and smashed it to the ground, and you were passed out. So that was the funny story I heard, and apparently there's a photo of it as well. It's on Facebook, I think.
Well, that's a cool story, bro. Too bad for you that none of it is true at all. That's fake news, folks. Fake news. And
I reckon you drank so much because you were excited that Trump won. Because I was pretty excited because I think at the start of the count Trump was behind, and then he came back and won. And was like, yeah. Anyway, you drank way too much, and I reckon that you went to sit down in the toilet, you fell down, and you hit the whole toilet, and then broke it and fell on the ground.
Well, that is the most creative story that someone's invented about me since Senator Slayer made up a story about my grandfather.
Well, I reckon you're trying to be professional, and that's why you don't want to admit to it. But what's the story about your grandfather?
It's been made up that he was in Germany during the 30s and 40s.
Oh,
which is totally fake.
Yeah, isn't your last name actually you anglicized it? It used to be more Germanic. It was like
It is a German name. It's pronounced Wilms.
Oh, really? Wilms? Yes, you are German. Yeah, so that's probably what happened. We should get the show wrapped up, Tim. There's probably something to say about this undercover climate cop, because I shared an article on my Telegram. Follow my Telegram if you want to. It's Andy Nolch. But
which one was this?
It's an article about an undercover cop that went into one of the climate groups, and for years he was like having sex with women and dating them and helping out the climate group, and he was actually a cop that was monitoring them and sending data to the police, and he was sabotaging their operations. And it was really interesting.
Yes, this is the Vice article. Is this the one?
Yeah, it's a great article, yeah. And because it shows you the extreme extents that the cops or the government are willing to go to in order to stop and monitor political groups. Because I was suggesting that Lauren Southern married a Fed and had a baby with a Fed, and absolutely believe that that was part of the operation to sabotage her life and get data from her about the right-wing movement and stuff. But what's interesting about this article is that my understanding was that the government was secretly helping the climate groups, and they are. But the lower level police, which this guy was, they're infiltrating the activist groups as well. So you get two levels of government infiltrating them: the lower level cops that are infiltrating and monitoring and sort of trying to stuff them up. Then the higher level ones, which are like ASIO and CIA and British intelligence, they're the ones that are really pushing the climate groups and getting them to shut down freeways for political reasons.
Yeah,
so that's why the government's so big. the government's so big that has so many departments. You got the left hand and the right hand. The left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing, and so that's why if you ever want to start a big political group or something like that, or get involved with some climate activist group or whatever, you're going to have multiple government agencies secretly infiltrating the group.
I'm curious because obviously Lauren Southern was in Australia when she married an Australian, but we have Elijah Schaefer now living in Australia because he's married to an Australian woman. I'm curious to know her background because for him to move his entire life and operations halfway across the world, like obviously his private life, he can do what he wants, but you sort of, after what's happened with Lauren Southern, your mind wonders. Well, we obviously hope that she is just an awesome Australian trad wife to him and mother to their child.
Yeah, but you just have to be very careful when you're in these. If you're in the political sphere, you have to be very careful about who you become friends with and stuff.
Would you move halfway around the world for a girl?
Yeah, but I guess it sort of depends on what I want to do career wise and all that sort of stuff. But probably let's say someone like Lauren Southern, because I reckon she's really hot. Like I just would probably straight up. Yeah.
Well, she's back in Vancouver, British Columbia, where she's originally from. There was this was so funny. There was a pro-mask protest outside the British Columbia Health Minister's office, and one of them attacked an anti-masker who came. How insane's that?
Yeah. So just like the Proud Boys being jailed for 17 years.
Yeah, for
Crazy.
just entering a building, pushing over a makeshift fence. They were charged with the Civil War offences, seditious conspiracy. But Antifa can just keep burning down cities, inciting violence.
Yeah, it's like when you're helping the government, then they leave you alone. But when you're actually not for their agenda, they destroy you. They really destroy you. They don't tolerate naughty behavior.
Well, let's wrap it up now, unless you've got any final thoughts, final observations, final speculation, predictions.
Nah, there's not much more to say. There's been some comments written about Lauren Southern.
I know that Senator Slayer wanted us to discuss The Voice. Obviously, it's going to go on for 6 weeks, the Voice referendum campaign. But what did you think of the ad, to the tune of John Farnham's "You're the Voice"?
Well, it's interesting because they've been paying top Aboriginals and famous people to support The Voice, and so it's just such a scam. It's like watching an election where it's like it's rigged before they even do the vote counting because they're using money to manipulate things and stuff. And I'm actually suspicious that they might end up rigging the whole thing and
well, I know
say yes.
That Joel Davis has said that the only way Yes can win from here is if they rig it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Just
all the
it's looking
polls
like at the moment.
have no winning easily, so that's what you'd expect to happen on October the 14th. Are you going to come on we're going to do a Trad Tasman Talk Super Saturday live stream because it's both the New Zealand general election and the Voice referendum. Are you going to come on?
Yeah, let's do it. I think it'll be an exciting night to see what happens with this Voice thing and if they rig it. But anyway, let's wrap up the show.
Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure that if you haven't subscribed to the channel, click the bell to allow notifications so you get a notification when we're about to go live, and also give a thumbs up, comment down below. That helps with the algorithm. I will be back next Monday night with Tim's News Explosion, 9 p.m., a 9/11 special 50-year anniversary Pinochet Day in Chile. And also there'll be fresh reports from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft, and keep visiting the unshackled.net, which has got Andy's articles and my articles and our productions archive.
Yeah, and follow Andy Nolch on Telegram and BitChute. And Tim, are you sharing the link to these live streams on the Facebook channel?
I can do that, yes.
I think that would be a good idea, I think.
Oh, well, we can sort out those sort of logistics off air.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Thanks for listening. See you later.
See you, everybody.